Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. Really excited today. Our featured guest is Naval Officer and NASCAR driver Jesse Iwuji. This one is, I don't know, I'll just describe it this way. If you're not inspired by the show, there's probably something wrong with you. Jesse is super motivated. He has got a great story. So I hope you enjoy it. Let me know your feedback regardless. Head over to iTunes and leave a rating or a review or both. Even better, leave both. But that's one way to ensure that we can continue to rock it out on the ratings, continue to pull in the right visibility for the show, and then continue to bring amazing guests on. That's part of it, leaving that feedback. But I need to tell you a few things. First off, though, I want to tell you more about AMSOIL. So they are everywhere. You know, I was just up north in northern Michigan, snowmobiling. You know, that's what we say in Michigan. We say up north. But either way, I was up there snowmobiling, and I'm looking around like, man, there's AMSOIL everywhere. You know, I stopped at a couple of different gas stations. There's AMSOIL there. I stopped in a place because I blew a belt, needed to get a new belt. There's AMSOIL there. And I'm like, well, luckily I already got AMSOIL in my sled, so I'm all good. But, you know, they're everywhere. And specifically with the AMSOIL Championship Snowcross Series, right? That's a big deal right now, and they are a huge part of that whole thing. So I'm grateful for them for supporting the snowmobile industry, you know, supporting the sport, and making great products. So I would love for you to give them some support. Make sure they know that, you know, you appreciate all the good things they've done for motorsports. So, you know, head over to AMSOIL.com or head over to one of their Facebook pages and leave them a comment. All right, so this episode here is also sponsored by SolderWeld. They produce game-changing metal bonding technology. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsport sponsorship. Bold Racing, they're a family race team and GSP XTV axle specialist. Neverlift Racing, they create comfortable, race-inspired apparel. And then Crash Addict Industries, they provide human protection and extreme racing products. I also want to give a shout out to some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and GSP XTV. Without further ado, let's hop in. Today I'm pretty pumped. Got a special guest. You know, I always try to bring a different perspective on this show, and today we got that. So Jesse Iwuji is on the line. So Jesse, why don't you fill in the gaps from that intro? Tell us about you. Tell us about what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Jesse Iwuji, as you mentioned. I'm a lieutenant in the United States Navy. I've been in the Navy for about 8 years now, but I decided to embark this crazy journey that not a lot of people in the Navy ever have, and that's racing in NASCAR. Basically, I went to the Naval Academy out of Dallas, Texas, graduated high school 2005, went to the Academy 2006, got to play football, college football there for 4 years. I also ran track there too. And then, you know, while there, I started growing this crazy passion towards motorsports, and all of a sudden decided that I wanted to pursue it. So, you know, after I graduated, all of us become officers in the Navy, and I became a surface warfare officer, and becoming a surface warfare officer allowed me to be on ships for about 4 years. And during that time, while I was on the ships, you know, I got to deploy out to the Arabian Gulf twice, spending about 15 months total in the Arabian Gulf. And then in between all that, you know, while I was home in San Diego, I really started doing everything I could to pursue motorsports. So back in 2011, I used to have this Dodge Challenger I used to take to a drag strip and drag race. Did that till about 2013. Then I switched over to my Corvette, which I used to take to different road course tracks on open track days and just, you know, track it. And then from there, I, you know, kind of figured that, hey, you know, I got a little bit of skill in this. I should take it, you know, to the next level. Like, why not pursue it professionally? Why not try to become a professional race car driver? Like, what's going to stop me, right? So decided to go down that route, and there was a lot of hard work, a lot of grind, sponsor hunting, marketing myself, networking, and just grinding my butt off and learning everything I could, you know, and never quitting. I went from, you know, doing track days, like I told you, on my Corvette, to now in 2018, I was racing in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series for a couple starts. So it's been a pretty incredible journey, and there's a lot of stuff that happened in between all that to make this happen, but that was kind of the general gist of it.
Oh, that's perfect. I got a few things right off the bat. First off, '05, like that's when I graduated too, so we've got that connection. And then thank you for your service. Really appreciate your support.
Yeah.
The Navy has been well represented on this show over the past couple of weeks. So the 2 episodes ago, we had Brad Coates on of Trail Recon, and he was I probably could go back in my notes and find it, but he retired from the Navy. I can't remember how many years it was, like 20 years or something. So definitely getting some good representation out of the Navy. I'm actually going back and see if I got it in my notes here. Navy Corpsman. I don't know how many years it was, but I got that. So thank you for service. I also I'll probably talk more about this a little bit later, but you've got a pretty awesome website, and it definitely captures both sides of your professional career, the military experience and then the NASCAR. So pretty cool stuff. So we might touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, what I want to do though now after those couple of highlights is dive a little bit deeper in your background. You gave us a pretty good highlight reel, but I honestly want to understand better, like, why did you decide to do the whole motorsports deal? So let's go back to that point, like when you said, I am going to get into motorsports. There's got to be more behind it than that.
Yeah, so how far you want to dive back? You want to dive back when I decided to start doing track days, or you want to dive back to the point where I made the decision to pursue NASCAR?
The earlier the better. I want to go like, if you were 3 years old and, in a pedal car, I want to know about that.
Yeah. So I never raced prior to 2015. 2015 was the first year I actually did my first wheel-to-wheel race. So I never go-karted when I was a kid. Didn't come from a racing background, didn't come from a racing family, never raced, literally even going into my first late model stock car race, I didn't even know what a lucky dog was. So, I didn't have a lot of race experience, but it didn't matter though.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all about grinding, effort, and all that stuff. So, back in, so going back a little bit more into college time frame, while at the academy, football was my thing. I was a college football player. I love football. Football is just the best thing ever to me, and that's just what it was. Like, that was like one of my ultimate goals, was to go to college and play college football. So I got to college, played college football. During the off season though, I secretly always had this little kind of knack and love for cars. I love cars. I love racing. I thought it was super cool. During the off seasons, I used to watch a whole bunch of YouTube and watch a bunch of Top Gear on YouTube, so I could learn everything I could learn possible about all the different kind of cars out there and their performance stats and how to handle and just different kind of car terms and things like that. And if I didn't understand something, I looked it up on Google. I figured it out. But that was like kind of my first introduction really to cars. And then after watching Top Gear, I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, I want to actually drive. I want to drive fast. I want to get a cool fast sports car or muscle car or something like that and just have fun with it. Didn't think anything of it. Just wanted to have fun. So graduated in 2010 and bought a Dodge Challenger. Began souping it up and doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff with it and spending a lot of money with it. Eventually, that car was making 1,000 horsepower, like to the wheels.
Wow!
So it was a beast. It was an animal. But with doing that, it kind of gave me my first introduction to motorsports. I really got to learn about engines, cars, and how they're built, and suspension, and just everything really about cars. I began really learning it during that time period when I was really building my Dodge Challenger and making it the animal that it became. Then bought the Corvette and then started road coursing with the Corvette because I got tired of the drag racing. I basically was like, you know what? Like, straight line stuff is fun. It is exciting, and I still think it's exciting. But I want to learn how to go fast and turn at speed, because I think that was like even more crazy. So that's why I bought the Corvette, and I bought it on a Friday night, and then either 1 or 2 weeks later, I was on the road course tracking it.
Nice.
So didn't waste any time. And while doing that, each week, I'd go to the track like probably anywhere about twice a month, 1 to 2 times a month. And each time I went, I just, there'd always be anywhere from 80 to 100 plus cars there. And every time I went, I was always like top 5, top 10 fastest there, and yeah, I had a Corvette, but there was like legit race cars some days there, and I'd be faster than them.
Yeah.
So, I was like, what, I'm literally bringing my daily driver up to the track, throwing it on some tires, and jumping on track and running some fast, lap times. What if I have enough skill to be a pro driver?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing stopping me. Like, what's stopping me? Like, why not just go do it? So then I began researching. I was like, okay, I got to research a little bit and figure out how to become a professional race car driver. Well, if anyone knows, you jump on the internet and you start looking up how to become a pro race car driver, all you're going to see is negativity. All you're going to see is everyone telling you that it's damn near impossible unless you come from a racing family, unless you're super rich, unless you started racing when you're 5 years old, blah, 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 all that crap. And I just come from a background and a place where if you can visualize and have the vision, the crazy vision of yourself doing something, then whatever that vision is completely possible with just effort, just a ridiculous amount of effort, faith, faith and effort and action. You put all those 3 together.
I'd say it sounds like you might have a tagline there if you don't already have one, like faith, effort, action. Jesse Iwuji. Faith, effort, and action. I mean, literally, that's it. That's the basis of it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply the same principles. Like when I was in 9th grade, I wasn't good at football, but I wanted to play college football. But if you saw me in 9th grade, you would have thought there's no way in the world this kid's ever going to make it college football. But through faith, effort, and action, I made it. So I started applying those same principles to my life at that point. So January 2014, I was sitting in my room at home, and I stood up and I wrote on my whiteboard. I said, "Become a professional race car driver." I was like, I had no clue where to go or what to do, but I just wrote it on my whiteboard. That was step number 1. And everyone who asks me what's the first step, I tell them that's the first step. Write it down. So I wrote it down, and then from there I was like, okay, now what do I do? So I was like, I'm not dumb. Let me do what I know how to do best, research, So I started researching. I'm like, okay, what do I got to do? So I tried to drown out the negativity and started trying to really figure out what truly needed to happen. So I figured out after a lot of research that racing requires a lot of funding, money, it costs money. It's not like football. It's not like basketball, track, anything like that. You don't just get recruited just because of talent. It costs money. Like you gotta have talent and you gotta have some source of funding, whether it's out of your pocket, your parents' pocket, or whatever, however you do, or somebody else's business's pocket. So for me, I was like, okay, how do I make that happen? So I'm not gonna quit there just because I don't have the money. I mean, I was a naval officer. We make good money, but we don't make NASCAR racing money. Most people don't make NASCAR racing money.
Yeah, most don't. So I was like, okay, now what do I do? How do I get that money? So then, while I went on deployment before I even got to that point, March 2014, because I started putting all this effort into it, I started like researching a lot, putting a lot of energy and focus towards racing and NASCAR. All of a sudden you start seeing little doors that were there before start opening that you didn't really notice them, but now they're there. And I met a guy at a car show. And I told him about, my goals in life, that I wanted to become a professional race car driver one day, and this and that. And then he just so happened to be racing late model stock cars at Irwindale Speedway in Southern California. So he gave me the offer. He was like, hey, you're interested in racing, all that stuff. Why don't you start with late models? Why don't you come out to Irwindale and race late model stock cars? And I was like, NASCAR? And he's like, yeah, NASCAR Wheel and All American Series. It's like the lowest level of NASCAR, but it's a good entry level for you, and you can learn a lot. So I was like, okay, how do I do this? He's like, well, come out and do a test and see if you even like it. So he told me it cost me $700 to come do a test. I was like, screw it. I'm going to freaking grab $700 and go do a test. So I grabbed $700. I went and did a test 2 months later. It went well. I was running good lap times for like a beginner. I was clean. I wasn't like spinning or wrecking or anything like that. Like they were like, okay, we can work with this guy. I did that and that went well. And then all of a sudden they told me, well, that went well. You could, after some more tests and stuff, you could probably be ready to race. I was like, okay. So I was like, what's that going to take? Well, they said $5,000 a race. I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to get $5,000 a race. If there's like, 10 or whatever races in the year, I got to find like 50 grand or something like that. And I was like, damn, like I don't have that extra money sitting around, So I went on deployment for 5 months, right, and then came back from that deployment, and then now I was transitioning from from sea duty to shore duty. So now I had all my weekends off, and now I had the time to race, but I didn't have the money yet. So now it's 2015. I didn't have the money yet, but I was trying to figure it out. And while on deployment, I was really doing a lot of research on how people get into a sport, how people stay in the sport, just how do people make it. And I figured out funding was huge. And how do you get funding? I was like, do you have to just be really good at driving or what? Well, I started noticing that wasn't really the case. Like, it's not completely about talent to get the funding. If you're trying to get it from sponsors, it's not completely about the talent. Like, you need to have some talent. You can't just be horrible. But at the same time, too, that doesn't dictate all. Like, what these companies are looking for are marketing assets. They're looking for people who can market their product and market their services for them so that they can gain more customers or more views on whatever they're trying to do, but it's not completely based on talent. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, if you're winning races, then you're getting them the bang for the buck. I'm like, no, that's not exactly true. Just because you won a race doesn't mean that they got bang for their buck. Like, you won, you accomplished your goal, but did you put more money back in their pocket?
Right.
Not always. Sometimes it works. It used to work, but times have changed. They need influencers. They need someone who's influential, who can influence their audience to be a consumer in that person's world for them.
Yeah.
So just winning doesn't do that. So I figured, okay, well, that's one thing, okay, I got to figure that out, the marketing side of it. So I was like, what makes me marketable? What makes me attractive to sponsors? How am I going to get these sponsors? Well, I need to learn how to make marketing decks. I need to learn how to pitch these marketing decks to key people at companies. Who do I talk to at the company? Do I talk to the lady at the front desk, or do I find a decision maker? I learned that finding decision makers was where it's at. Not that a lady can't be a decision maker, but you know what I'm saying. So, anyways, I started learning all that little stuff. And trying to figure out, okay, what makes me special? What makes my story different than everyone else's? Because why would somebody want to come sponsor me over that guy there who's been racing for 10 years or whatever, who knows what he's doing? So I figured, okay, it's my story. That's what's going to set me apart. Because every single race car driver out here, they all look the same. They all came from the exact same background. They all started racing karts when they were 6, and they're racing whatever they're racing now. And I was like, what makes me different? What sets me apart? 1, African American. 2, I'm in the military. And then 3, I'm just like everybody else, coming from nothing, trying to make it. So all 3 of the things put together, that's what made my story interesting, and that's what made me marketable, and that's what I pushed. I was like, let me push my story, let me push all that stuff, and that's going to make me marketable for companies. That's what's going to make me grow an audience, a following that's going to be really engaged in what I'm doing, and that audience and following is going to support whoever wants to potentially sponsor me. And the crowd that I grabbed was really the military crowd, not even really the African American crowd, the military crowd. And that's huge for a lot of companies. Companies want that demographic. They want those people, and that's who I catered to. So that's what made me marketable and allowed me to start finding sponsorship. My first year of racing, I went into my first race with $5,000 out of my own pocket that I saved from deployment. The second race, I needed $5,000 more. I didn't have it, so I did a crowdfunding campaign. A lot of my Naval Academy alumni, friends, a lot of family, friends on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, put in money, and I was able to get $10,000 from that crowdfunding campaign, and that funded my second race and damage that occurred within both of those races. And then going to my third race, didn't have any money left, but I had a credit card, so I maxed it out and got to my third race, and now I really had no more money. I had nothing else left to go. I had no more money, nothing. And from there, I was like, how I'm going to make it now. And through all that marketing stuff, everything I learned, I kept on continuing to try to search for sponsors. During that whole time, I was sending emails out to multiple companies a day, reaching out to people, networking with everyone I could, just doing everything I could. And I finally met a guy who was like, hey, I have a connection for you. Let me connect you to him. He connected me. Maybe 2 phone calls and breakfast later, I had my first sponsor.
Nice.
And it's funny because when I'd never pitched any sponsorship to this fellow. All I did was tell him my story, what I was doing, what my goals were. He could just sense the passion in me. And he was like, you know what, I can help you. How many races you got left this year? And I couldn't remember how many, but I was like, I had X amount of races. He was like, how much is it going to take for you to finish the rest of your season? I was like, it's probably going to take about $40,000 to finish the rest of the season. He was like, okay, you got it.
Wow.
And that was it. But it was a unique way we did the sponsorship because he didn't directly give me the money. He donated the money to a charity. The charity took over the sponsorship and became my sponsor. And then that's how I was able to help that charity get exposure while he got the benefit of knowing that he did something great, but also donated to this charity. And then the charity got got something good out of it by all the exposure and everything we did through the sponsorship. And then me, I got sponsored. So everybody won.
Wow. That's pretty cool. There's a couple things on there that I haven't heard before. I really like that story about how that sponsor basically said, hey, I'm going to fund this charity, and then they're going to benefit from promoting you, and you're going to benefit from promoting them, vice versa. That's a pretty cool option. I like that. I'm imagining you got a lot of respect for that person. I do. So yeah, that's pretty cool. There's a couple of things in there that were consistent. Tell your story, tell your goals, and then from there, doors opened up, things happened. And then just to highlight here, we've only probably had a couple of guests do something like this before. I mean, maybe a couple out of, when I release this, it's probably going to be like episode 133 or 134. The crowdfunding campaign. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, to put that out there and then raise 10 grand is phenomenal. Crowdfunding campaigns are not always that easy, right? They take a lot of thought and effort, and you got to have, to your point earlier about the marketing and the influencer strategy, you got to have that to have a successful crowdfunding campaign. So that's pretty neat. Yeah, I don't know. I think overall that's a pretty good story there, and I really like how you were able to leverage the things that made you unique. We talk about that on this show a lot, about what makes you unique and how do you pull that out. And everybody has something, right? Everybody has something, but you got to find it. You got to find it sometimes, and then you got to be comfortable talking about it. Once you find that thing, you gotta be okay putting it out there and saying this is what makes me different, and that's the way it's gonna be, and we're gonna talk about it. Good.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge. You really gotta know how to talk about yourself. You gotta know how to market yourself, and it's hard. It's not, it's not easy. A lot of people see it as, oh man, I don't want to be sound cocky, or it seems weird, having to promote myself and self-promotion. And you have to learn how to do it. I mean, you are your own marketing agent. You got to know how to market your story and put it out there. If you want people to support you, they're not going to invest in a quiet person. They're going to invest in someone who has it. Somebody who's able to go out there and talk and represent and promote. That's the whole point. If you can't represent and promote, then why do I want to spend money on you? Not no one. There's rarely anyone out there who wants to just put their money in your dream. They're not putting their money in your dream just to fund your dream. Nobody wants to fund anyone's dreams. They're only funding things that they think they can get something out of, something good out of that's worth it to them. At the end of the day, it has to be worth it to that person. So some people, them being a sponsor for you and funding your racing, it's worth it to them because they just love seeing their face or their company on a race vehicle going around the track. They just think it's awesome. They think it's just cool, the coolest thing ever. Some people, that doesn't mean anything to them. It's if I'm going to spend money on this, how am I going to get money back? I need to activate at the track. I need to get fans engaged. I need to get their contact information, data on these fans. I need to find some way to turn these fans into consumers somehow. I need to convert them. How am I going to turn these people into money? And if sponsoring you doesn't do that, then they're not going to do it. And that's why people have such a hard time finding sponsors. Everyone thinks that there's just companies out there just here to fund your dream. No one's here to fund anyone's dream. They're there to get something out of it. So you got to give them what they want and quit trying to make them give you what you want.
You know, we've shared this a million times on the show, but I'm going to keep sharing it. I'm going to keep talking about it. You cannot enter into these conversations with, I want this, I want that. You know, there's somebody on, I shouldn't laugh because I'm here to help. I'm here to help these people, but there was a comment I saw on one of my posts on a Facebook page a while back, and the person was like, you know, I don't remember the exact words they used, but it basically said, "Hey, would somebody sponsor me to fix my bike?" Something like that. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, okay, you need to start from episode 1. Like, let's just let's go to the basics, let's go to the beginning, because that's just not how it works." I mean, even with what you talked about, you gotta, you know, some people might just see, okay, the sponsor gave you $40,000 to finish your race season, but we got to go back to the point where you completely ran out of money, right? Like, we got to remember that. Maxed out the credit cards. You know, there was a story on here. Yeah, actually, there's a number of people who have taken that path. They're like, I maxed out my credit cards, I spent all my money, like I ran out of options, and one day something happened and it turned around. So people forget that. They forget all that stuff beforehand. And they just see what happened at that point. Like, you did a crowdfunding campaign and we got 10K? Like, yeah, guess what? And it took me forever to figure out that actual strategy and, like, getting a hold of everybody in my network, and, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Your crowdfunding campaign was, you basically have, I believe it was like 30 days. So you had 30 days to hit a certain target goal, right?
Yep.
So if you don't hit the target goal, then you have to give all that money back. Right. So I was like, I have to hit this target. Well, I think my target was like $5 or $6 grand, something like that or whatever. And I hit the goal, you know, but it took a lot of effort. I mean, every day promoting the campaign and not just posting it on Facebook and walking away. Like, nobody cares. Nobody want to read that. You got to engage. So I was like, look, I'm going to put the groundwork in, like, just like a good salesperson does. I went and knocked on every single door, not literally knocking on doors. I sent direct messages to people, and I didn't do the whole, like, copy and paste this generic message to a million different people.
Right.
I literally individually wrote hundreds of people, individual, like, you know, hey, Brian, how's it going? Like, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, explaining my story and why it's important, you know, how them being on board right now helping with this is laying the groundwork for something huge in the future. And I had something to sell. I had a story. I had something that made people want to get behind it. They're like, man, you went to the Naval Academy, you're in the Navy, you're still active duty in the Navy, and you're about to become the first NASCAR driver ever who's been active duty Navy. I was like, that's cool. Like, that's different. Like, that's something I can support. It's not like, oh, hey, can you all give me some money so I can, you know, soup up my car, guys? You know, like, nah, like, it was something different. Like, there was a purpose to it, there was a cause. Like, I was trying to go accomplish something that was basically seen as impossible, you know, and I wasn't afraid to go after it and do it. And I had already, and the thing is, what people also don't understand is, before you even get sponsored, you have to invest in yourself. If you haven't invested in yourself, how are you going to expect that someone else is going to invest in you? I didn't go do a crowdfunding campaign to start racing. I did a crowdfunding campaign after I did my first race. So I had already putting out some proof of concept. Like, I showed people that, hey, I'm in it already. Like, I already did my first race. I put money into myself. I believed enough in myself that I'll put my own money on the line to make it happen. I just ran out already, and now I need some help, you know? So you got to know that. A lot of people come to me and ask me, like, hey, I'm going to start racing. I want to get into racing. How do I go get sponsors? And I tell them, I was like, don't look for sponsors prior to getting into racing or whatever you're doing. You got to invest in yourself first. No one's investing in anyone's dreams. You know, no one is going to invest in people's dreams. They're only going to invest in something that's proven. And I'm not saying you got to be racing for 10 years to get sponsors, but you have to put money in yourself and show them some type of proof of concept, like proof of the concept that you're trying to sell, so that people can be, okay, you've already kind of done it already. Now I trust you when I give you my money. So people have to remember that.
No, definitely. Well, that was a great background, and, you know, we got into a few topics already that I wanted to cover anyways in this show, so that's perfect. But I want to take a quick minute here to break and thank the sponsors for this podcast. 2 questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both, and that's why we partner with topthepodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you got to check out topthepodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club podcast website is sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistal of topthepodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content. That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to topthepodium.com. And then the resume, again, is massive. And if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible.
What's up, everyone? This is Mike Pasquarella, founder of Desert Vets Racing. When the team goes racing, we always have our SolderWeld products with us. Keeping the cars in the fight is our number one concern. With SolderWeld, we can do that. SolderWeld is a leading company in the U.S. for aluminum repair. They specialize in radiator repair on the fly. If you're stuck in the middle of the trail or a race with a hole in your radiator, oil pan, or canister, or even an aluminum line, you can fix it right then and there in a matter of minutes with their AMSOIL aluminum repair rods and flux. It's the only complete and lasting fix in the off-road community. SolderWeld's new UTV off-road kits fit in every ride and are easy to access on the fly.
SolderWeld continues to make a huge positive impact on this industry. So I really encourage you, get in there now. Go to solderweld.us, check out their products, because this stuff is changing the game. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out crashaddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. Family race team. Those are the first words that come to mind when I think of Bold Racing. And the next one is actually axles. Bold Racing is a premier distributor of GSP XTV axles. And if that wasn't cool enough, they just came out with an entirely new axle called the Revolution axle. It is a hollow tube axle. It's really cool. If you head over to their website, gspxtv.com, or you can find out more at boldracingltd.com, you can find out how this new axle technology works. So they are saying to view this as a fuse for your drivetrain. So the hollow tube CV axle twist technology actually increases the strength and reliability of the axle, and it also reduces stress on the drivetrain. Plus, honestly, it's super cool looking, and if people know me, they know that I really like cool looking stuff. So they come in this really cool gold color. Check it out. It's absolutely revolutionary. Look, I'm sorry, but I gotta admit something. I like to look cool. I like to wear high quality clothing. I like it to be comfortable, and I also like it to portray the values that I also hold true to myself. That's why I like Neverlift Racing. So they were founded in 2013, and they are all about high quality, comfort, and looking cool. So, like I said before, exactly what I'm looking for out of clothing. Admittedly, my favorite shirt of all time is the Neverlift Racing silver badge t-shirt. Like, I wear this thing probably too often because way too many pictures of me on social media are wearing this shirt. Either way, they have a ton more out there. So go get your shirt, your hoodie, your hat, and actually your socks. Probably one of the most comfortable pair of socks I've ever owned too. And they got pretty cool things where it says never on one side, lift on the other. Really cool stuff. Get your apparel. Wear something that supports your values. Live fast, drive hard, Neverlift Racing. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're in the main event now. That's where we talk about sponsorship tactics and strategies. You know, we already got some golden nuggets of information in Heat 2, but there's a few other things that we're going to talk about here. Now, I like to better understand how racers have made contact with sponsors and built that relationship. You gave one example already that was phenomenal, but is there another one? Is there another time where, you know, you made a connection with a person or a company and that ended up building into a sponsorship, you know, for your race program?
Yeah, so that's kind of the whole the basis of sponsorship. You got to make it's a relationship type gig. You got to form a relationship. A lot of people think it's as easy as going online, finding the sponsorship at company.com, email address, and sending them a proposal and thinking that'll be good enough to get a sponsorship. You got to treat it like the opposite sex, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a guy, right, and you're there's a lady out there that you like and that you want to be with, are you the first time you ever have any contact with her, are you just going to send her an email and say, hey, will you marry me? No. Like, she's gonna be like,
you're not
no.
supposed to do it that way? Oh, man.
No, it's not going to happen. And this could have been your soulmate. This really could have been your soulmate. This could have been a perfect person for you. But you screwed it all up by the first thing you're doing is sending an email and basically telling them, will you marry me?
Yeah.
Like, not even telling them about yourself, just being like, hey, can you marry me?
That is so true. I've literally had people reach out to me too many times now and say, will you sponsor me? And usually they spell sponsor wrong. And that's like the start. That's the beginning of our relationship. Will you sponsor me?
Relationship. Yeah. And you can't do that. You can't do that. So you have to somehow, some way, build a relationship with them. So really it takes more of, if the only way you can't communicate with them at first is email, then let's form a relationship. Email them and, ask them, hey, how are you doing? I would love to jump on the phone with you and talk to you about a certain opportunity. And maybe you can describe it a little bit more on kind of what your idea is, but just tell them, like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this opportunity. And then talking to them about the opportunity, maybe in the first conversation, we don't talk numbers. Just tell them about you, your story, what you're doing, what you want to do for them, not what they can do for you, but this is what I want to do for you. And then at the end of it, like, any smart person who has any kind of mind at marketing, if they want to, begin courting you, if they want to begin dating you, they're gonna eventually start asking for numbers and be like, you know what, you seem interesting. It seems like an interesting opportunity. What's it gonna take for me to help you? Because now I know all the things you're gonna do for me. What do I need to do for you? Mm-hmm. Because they're gonna know. They know this doesn't come for free. They're like, they have all budgets and marketing budgets. They spend a lot of money on this kind of stuff. They spend millions of dollars on ad campaigns every single month.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I literally, I have a friend who spends, he spends $10,000-$15,000 a day on Facebook advertisements.
Yeah.
A day.
Yeah.
And that might, some people look at it and like, oh man, that kind of person could easily sponsor me. Well, he's not sponsoring anybody because that doesn't fit the demographics that he wants
Right.
for his company. Like, he's making money in a certain way, and he's going to stick on that track and keep doing what he's doing. You know, he's not going to make money doing anything else by sponsoring anybody. So just because he has that money doesn't mean he wants to use it on sponsorship unless you convince him otherwise by courting them. And that's what a good guy does when he meets a girl. Like, if he has true game, he's going to find some way to convince her to eventually be his girlfriend and then eventually marry her or marry him, you know? And that's the same thing. We're looking for sponsorships. When you find these companies, you got to, you know, start courting them, start dating them, start bringing them out. Maybe you're like, before you even ask them for money, this person hasn't even went to an event yet, hasn't even been to a race. Why don't you invite them out to a race to get the race experience, make them fall in love with what you're trying to make them spend money on. And then once they fall in love, eventually it's going to get to the point where they're like, you know what? Like, I kind of want to do something with you, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you're trying to date the opposite sex, you know? Like, it's the same type of relationship. You build that relationship, and then eventually you might not even have to ask for what you're trying to get.
This is good stuff. I am laughing because you're not the first person who's made this connection, but you're only the second. Gosh, I was trying to go back to my notes and try to figure out who did this, but somebody else talked through this. They're like, yeah, this whole thing, it's just like starting a relationship. You know, you gotta, you know, do this whole courting deal and take them on dates. And I was trying to go back to my notes and find out who that was, because it's funny. It's good stuff. It's so true. It's so true. But so thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, I mean, you know what I didn't ask you, which I always do this in the first round, but who's your most recent sponsors that you've worked with?
So, racing-wise, we've been with Principal Jets, we've been with Zulu Audio, we've been with Merit, we've been with North Star Contractors, we've been with BBMC Mortgage, Perfect Hydration, we've also been with Fuel Injector Connection, and USAA has done some marketing campaigns with us. So we've worked with a various amount of companies, all from different backgrounds, all different kind of industries. That's one thing also for, you know, people to know is, you know, the sponsors, they don't have to be racing or motorsports related sponsors. They could have nothing to do with racing, but the reason why you attracted them into your industry is because there's a certain fan demographic that's in your industry that they want to target, that they want to sell to, and their key to that group is you. And you have to make it evident to them that you are their key to that group, you know, because why don't they just go become an official sponsor of NASCAR instead of just sponsoring you? Well, maybe because NASCAR isn't the key to that group. Maybe the key to influencing that group is you.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm glad you brought that up. I get pretty passionate about and that term is non-endemic sponsors, right? People who are outside of that industry. So for us, motorsports, anybody outside of motorsports, non-endemic sponsors. I love bringing NASCAR guests on this show, people who have had experience with that, because it seems like companies are comfortable with, you know, non-endemic companies are comfortable with sponsoring NASCAR racers. You know, a lot of it's because of the demographics of the people who are at the races and who are watching it. But gosh, I'd love to see more of that in the rest of motorsports. You know, there's a lot of endemic sponsors, so people, you know, tire brands and, you know, why can't I think of any other parts on a car right now? Shocks and, you know, like I completely blanked there. But like they're all over the place.
Oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of oil, AMSOIL, shout out. Like, love you guys. But like, there's not as much in the off-road space, in the snowmobiling space of the non-endemic sponsors, and I would love, like, I challenge guests and I challenge listeners to go pull those people in. Like, that is one way to get this industry to grow. Like, let's pull in new demographics into racing. Like, let's get young girls, more and more young girls racing. Like, you mentioned earlier, African Americans. Like, let's get African Americans, more of them racing. Like, let's get more money into the whole motorsports industry and grow it. Like, let's we need to give more people access to this stuff. Wow, I got a little amped there. But like, it's such a big deal, and I need people to take those chances too and reach out to, you know, these other companies and just see like what kind of relationship can you build with somebody that's not necessarily in motorsports. Let's keep the people in motorsports. Like, we love those people too. Like, we love them. Keep them there, but let's bring some more in too.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's the big thing. You know, companies want to come into a motorsports event, a motorsports industry that has a lot of eyeballs there watching. That's the big thing. That's where you'll see, you know, the different types. Like, you'll see the BBMC mortgages, you'll see you know, Geico, you'll see all those random people that have nothing to do with motorsports. You're seeing there because they're there because it's a big stage. Like, there's a lot of eyeballs there watching what's going on, and that's all they care about is the eyeballs. They want to be in front of those eyeballs, and they want you to, when you think about insurance, to think about, you know, USAA. When you think about drinking a soft drink, they want you to think about Coca-Cola, you know, and that's because they put all of their branding in front of your face so many different times, got you to interact with their branding at activations in the fan zone. They got you to see their branding all over TV, all that stuff. Like, they want that. They want that to be ingrained in your mind so that when you think of something, like, you know, a lot of people, you know, they, in motorsports, when they're getting ready to build a website, they're like, okay, I need to get a domain. What should I use? Oh, let's use GoDaddy. The reason why is because I've seen that all over Danica Patrick's car all the time. That's the only one I can recognize right now. So I'm going to use GoDaddy. And it worked. They made money because of it. They made a lot of money.
That's exactly how I did it too. Like, when I did my first domain, I was like, wait, there's only one real option, right? That's the only one I know of. And Danica Patrick is the exact reason why.
Exactly. I do the same thing. And that's why that stuff works, you know. But, you know, she was a good marketing tool for them. Like, she got so much attention in NASCAR, and she didn't even have to win a race. You know, she got a ton of attention because she's a female, and you know, she started on the pole for you know, the Daytona 500 one year, and you know, she won an IndyCar race or whatnot. So, you know, that gave her so much attention, and eyes were always on her. You know, and there was always critics on her too, so it got her even more attention. Yeah. And because of all that stuff, you know, her sponsors reaped the benefits of it.
Definitely. Well, I was curious if you had an example of a time when things didn't go great with a sponsor. You know, I don't want to get in a company name or anything, but sometimes it's helpful if things don't go well, we talk about it, and then people can avoid that mistake.
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate that most of the sponsors that I worked with, everything has gone well. I think there's some sponsors I've worked with that things could have gone better. I would say some pitfalls that can happen sometimes is, you know, when I first started doing sponsorships, like I was fortunate enough that the first sponsor that I had actually a really good marketing group of people within that organization who helped really push the sponsorship and make it worth it. But some things that could always go better with sponsorships is, you know, the big thing is, one, learn how to protect your sponsors. I've been fortunate enough that I haven't had anyone steal my sponsors, but people do have people steal sponsors. Like, don't invite your sponsors to the track and not cater to them, or have someone have a watchful eye on them, or be with them at all times. Because it's just like, you know, bringing your little date to a concert or to the club. Bringing a date to the club and you walking away to go do your thing, whatever you're doing, dancing, whatever, and leaving her at the bar alone for a bit. You know what's going to happen? She's not just going to sit there alone and no one's going to talk to her. There's going to be some other, you know, people who want to court her come up to her and start talking to her. And you don't want that to happen, because you don't want her to look any other way. You know, you want her to have all eyes on you and all attention focused on you the entire time, so that at the end of the night, like, you two leave together and not her and whoever else, or him or whoever else, however. You know, and that's the whole thing. You got to make sure you protect your sponsors, because there are sponsor stealers out there. People who just have zero morals, don't care, and they will go talk to your sponsor whenever they get an opportunity to tell them why you are a better fit for them than whoever they're with at the moment.
So I got a story here. I was debating if I was going to tell it, but let's just get it out there. So when I first started dating my wife, so I mean, at the time you and I would have been in the same grade in high school, But I was actually sort of dating this other girl at the time. We went to this hockey game together, and I don't know, she went somewhere, and it wasn't a great relationship, but she went somewhere else. And then this other girl walked in and sat down, who I knew from school, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" So I like shifted my seat and went and sat next to her. And however many years later, we're married, right? Like 15 years later, we got together that night, like never split after that. So you guys gotta watch that. You could have your sponsor right in front of you, and then they're gonna be gone for 15 years. And that's just
exactly. That's how it works. It happens. It does happen. So you got to have your watchful eye. Another thing too with sponsorships too is, make sure they're getting, like, a lot of people, they're all doing everything in the world possible to try to get this sponsor, and then they get them finally, and then all of a sudden they feel like the work has ended. You have to recognize that the work just begins when you get the sponsor. When you get them, that's the easier part. The tougher part is making sure that all the deliverables, all those things that, like, you promised them, you actually have to do now. So you told them you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to give them this exposure, you're going to take them here, do this, do these events with them, do these meet and greets, appearances, all that stuff. Well, guess what? Now that you got them and they're spending money on you, you got to do those things you said. You got to do them in a way that's going to make sure that they get a return on their investment. ROI. Like, just because they wrote you a check doesn't mean it's all good now. You don't have to do anything else, because if you treat it that way, okay, you got money for right now, cool. But when it comes to renewing the sponsorship, well, that whole time while you were sitting there fat and happy and not going after other sponsors, and now you have 0 leads for the next year, that person that could have been your renewal, they just left you because you didn't do anything for them, and you sat there fat and happy. So now you're kind of in double trouble. And you have to recognize that and remember that. So when you get your sponsors, make sure that you're doing everything that you told them you're going to do and beyond. The biggest thing is under promise, over deliver. Under promise, over deliver. You got to do that.
I feel like at least one person listening just got super stressed out because they're like, "Oh my gosh, my renewal's coming up, and I haven't even, I have no backup plan." I guarantee at least one person is stressed. So hey, you're welcome, one person. You are very welcome. But now you gotta go. Let's see. Hold on, go back. You gotta have faith, effort, and action, and you can resolve this thing. Jesse Iwuji, 2019. Is that on your website? I don't think it is. Faith, effort, action.
No, it's not. It's not. But it's something I just tell people. I give them tips.
If you ever do a workout video, that would be perfect for that as well.
Faith,
that's
effort,
good.
Action.
Done. You like Tony Horton or Sean T. You can sell some serious workout videos with that. All right. Well, that was good stuff. I want to take the next couple minutes here and talk about unique things that you maybe have done. Some people have talked about, literally, this is Sally McNulty was on here. She does Time Attack car racing. And she's like, yeah, one thing unique I've done for my sponsor was I did this whole little skit where I pulled a brand new turbocharger like out of an oven and presented it to my audience. I was like, oh, that's pretty fun. But I don't know, is there anything like that, anything cool or unique or different or interesting that you've done to promote yourself or promote your sponsors that you like to share?
Yeah. So when it comes to promoting sponsors and stuff, I've begun taking a different approach towards how I go after sponsors and how I present myself to these sponsors. So I don't present myself. I hardly present myself now as a race car driver to them. Like, even though I tell them, yeah, I'm racing NASCAR, all that stuff. I don't. That's not my selling point. My selling point isn't that I'm racing at NASCAR. My selling point is that I'm an influencer. All these companies out there, they're spending a lot of money on influencers. Influencer campaigns on these YouTube stars and Instagram people and Facebook, all that stuff. They're spending a ton of money, but then they'll go spend $50,000 on someone to do one video, and then you're just over there asking for like $5,000 to help you out with a little bit of racing, and they're like, nah. Even though they have the money, they're like, nah, like that's not I'm not going to spend a dime if I'm not going to see anything out of it. But they're spending a lot of money on these other people. And the reason why is because they're influential. They're able to influence. So I present myself as an influencer to these sponsors, saying, this is what I like to do. So when I put out my sponsorship decks to these marketing groups at these companies and stuff like that, I start talking to them about all the influencer type campaigns and things I want to do. I do meet and greets. I do the appearances where I can do speeches for their sales teams and do motivational type stuff. I can do things, team building stuff with their employees. We can do things with their kids, any of their charities. We can bring them to the track for VIP experiences and put them in suites. We can do these garage tours with their clients. Let's say the company, we can go to them and say, hey, you're my sponsor. This is what we're going to do for you, sponsor. Any of your top customers that purchase whatever from you or do business with you, bring them to the track as your special thank you for them being a top customer, and I'll give them a VIP experience. By me doing that, they're going to be like, wow, this is awesome. I'm going to continue doing business with this company because they just brought me to a NASCAR race for free at a time of my life, and I get to do this every year. Shoot, I'm going to make sure I spend X amount of money with this. And that could be all worth it right there. Just that kind of stuff right there. Sometimes it's like there's sponsors who will sponsor people just for that reason right there, so that they can have the opportunity to bring that company, their customers and their clients out to these events and give them this crazy VIP experience so they can keep spending money on them. Because at the end of the day, the sponsor, they just want to make money. That's all they want to do is make money. So if by being with you and partnering with you helps them make money, then they'll do it. Whether it's bringing them new customers or it's helping keep their current customers and making their current customers spend more money with them, or business to business relations where by that sponsor being at the track, they're open now to this huge trade show worth of multi-million-dollar companies that are there at every single race because they sponsor all these cars. Now they have connections to these people where they didn't have that access before because they weren't in the game.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I really like the concept too of, whether it's a VIP experience or a, giveaway or win a day with. That's cool stuff. I'd like to see more racers and riders do that kind of stuff. I know in the backcountry snowmobile world, I've seen some examples where people have done that, like come ride with me for a day, all expenses paid trip, sponsored by Monster Energy or whatever, and which is cool. It's good stuff, and it's something that you can do as an athlete to help promote the company and give the customer a really good experience.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's the biggest thing.
Well, I want to go through a couple of questions right now in the lightning round. So it's intended to be like off the top of your head, what would you do? Although it never really works out the way that I intended to. But we're going to go through the lightning round anyways. All right,
round, here it goes.
All right, Jesse, if you could sponsor anyone in the world, who would you choose and why?
If I could sponsor anyone in the world, who would I choose and why? Honestly, I would choose someone who, does it have to be a particular person, like an actual name, or just the type of person I'm looking for?
I don't know. This is why it never works out, because I'm so flexible.
No, it's okay. It's fine. The kind of person, I don't have a name off the top of my head, but I do have the type of person that I would, and it would be someone that I see has those qualities that I mentioned about the effort, the grind, and the faith. Somebody who has that person who's determined and will never quit, and nothing will stop them, and they're completely determined to accomplish whatever they did. They're basically like it's just an immovable object. Like they will get to wherever they're going. That's the kind of person I want to sponsor, because those are the people who I know will do very good things in life. They're dangerous. Like somebody with that type of willpower, somebody who will everything to them. That's the kind of person I want to sponsor, because I know I'm gonna get my best bang for the buck with them. And I don't want to sponsor just the most talented driver out there. I don't want to sponsor the prettiest driver out there, whatever. No, I want to sponsor the person with the crazy amount of willpower, determination, effort, grind, and faith that nothing is getting in their way. Nothing will stop them. There will be no quit. They will make it to where they're going. That's who I want to be with.
Perfect. Well, once you said that not the prettiest and not the most talented, you knocked me off the list. So, or in the most humble. No, that's good. That's good. If you could use only one social media platform, which would you choose and why?
It would be Instagram for sure. Instagram is where it's at. Just the way you can do videos on there, pictures, the engagement, how you're able to engage with people. It's just easier and more user friendly and very engaging friendly when it comes to fans. You get way better engagement on there. Also, too, the algorithm behind all the stuff on Instagram is a lot better than it is for Facebook. Facebook really has honed down on their algorithm, so it takes a lot to get some reach on Facebook. You got to spend money to basically get any kind of reach on Facebook. Whereas Instagram, you get way better reach and engagement due because they haven't turned the algorithm into crap.
Who has been your biggest supporter?
My biggest supporter has been a lot of people. There's not just one person. And there's been a lot of new people who have come in my life over the last couple of years who have been very big supporters. So it cannot be just one person. I can tell you my current big supporters, because there's not just one. One of them, my agent, Matt Casto. He's been really awesome to work with over the last year and some change. He's done a lot for me. He's helped me get a lot of great sponsorship over the last year. Prior to him, I didn't have an agent. I didn't have someone going out and looking for sponsorship for me. I did it all myself. I was able to secure a pretty good amount of money. And with him on board, he's helped secure almost double whatever I've done within a year. So he's really great. He's just like me. The reason I wanted to work with him is because he's just like me. He grinds. He's the kind of person where he can hit me up at midnight and be like, hey, we need to knock out this sponsorship presentation because I got somebody on the hook for something tomorrow. And I'll be like, let's do it. And we'll sit there all night and knock it out. Like, that's the kind of person I want. I want a grinder. I don't want someone who's done at 5 p.m. and don't talk to me until 8 a.m. tomorrow. Like, I want somebody who's trying to call me at 4 a.m. because we got some work to do. Like, that's the kind of person I want. So he's been a great supporter. My girlfriend's always been a really good supporter. I've been dating her for a little over a year now. She's really, really great at supporting. She's been there for me. She knows how hard it is because, I spend a lot of time on this racing stuff and my goals and my dreams. And I don't give her enough attention. But she's just been awesome, and she recognizes and knows that, like, I'm on a mission, and she does her best not to bother my mission. My family have been great supporters for me. They believe in what I'm doing, even though they thought I was crazy at first. They believe. They're all grinders too. They're all doing well in life. Both of my brothers are number 1, number 2 in their divisions for their sales in their company that they work with. They're doing really, really good. Sometimes I wish they could sponsor me. Yeah. They've actually helped me out a lot. There's been times where I didn't have enough sponsorship money, and they've come and bailed me out. So they've been great. And a lot of other people. I mean, so many people are named that have been great supporters of me. But anyone who's ever been there from the beginning, who's helped me out. And I remember all the people who donated for that crowdfunding campaign, and I will never forget those people because they allowed me to get to this point. Without that, I would have never got to the second race. If I didn't get to my second race, I wouldn't have got to the third, and if I didn't get to the third, I wouldn't have got my big sponsorship that allowed me to finish that year. Right. So thank you to all those people.
Perfect.
Thank God.
And you and I had talked briefly about one of your brothers who actually, we worked at the same company for a period of time. To be a top sales rep in that company is a big deal. So it's a big deal. So congrats to him.
He just won a Rolex. He went to their big sales meeting won a Rolex. That's awesome. They put him on stage and everything. He had to do a speech and all that stuff.
Yeah,
he's like number 1. So
it's serious. It's a serious field that he's in. So that's awesome. And then actually, I didn't mention this before, but you were with Magnuson Superchargers which, and where I work at, we make the internal components for some Magnuson superchargers, so it's pretty cool. We had little connections that we found like before we got in the interview, which is, I always like that stuff. I think it's fun. But that's it for the lightning round. Pretty short and sweet. But now we're at the finish line. We're gonna wrap things up. Now I want to know from you, what's that one little piece of advice if people listening just forgot everything else? Maybe they took a nap earlier and they missed it, but they just need that one piece of advice to take away from this conversation. What would that one thing be?
So the one thing I'm about to say, it sounds super cliche. Everyone said it in the world. It's the most cliche thing ever. But I'm going to say it in two different ways. The first way is never quit. Mm-hmm. The reason I say never quit, it sounds super cliche. It sounds so obvious. Yeah, never quit. Okay, everyone's never told me that, but it's hard. Well, this is why I say never quit. Is because the world, the universe, rewards those who stick it through. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, everything that's happening bad, that's not letting you get to your goal, all it's doing is trying to wash out all the quitters. And all it's trying to do is wash out the quitters. It's not saying that what you're trying to get to is impossible. There's nothing impossible. As long as you have a clear vision in your head that you were supposed to be somewhere and do something, that means you were meant to be there and do something. So just keep going after it. Do not quit, no matter what. Just keep taking the punches. I don't care. Muhammad Ali is just throwing knockout KOs at you. As long as it doesn't kill you, you will get to where you're supposed to go. At that final point where it's supposed to be quitting time, and it's like, you know what, there's nothing left. Like, there's no more path. There's no light. I'm not going anywhere. That time where it's basically pretty, quote unquote, obvious that you should quit, that is what separates the people who make it from people who don't. The people who don't make it, they're the ones who walk away and go try something else. The people who make it are the ones who just whistle and kind of look around and wait till everyone's walked away, and they stick around, and guess what? The next day, they make it. Yeah. And you have to just trust in it. Like, that's where the whole faith thing comes into play, where you have to know that, like, even though I see zero light in this tunnel, there is light at the end of it. Even though you can't see it, you have to just have faith that it's there. And the people who do are the ones who make it. If the people who need to see a light for them to grind and go get something, those are people who will never make it in life. If you have to see the light, like if the light is necessary for you to see, then good luck. You're not going anywhere in life. The second way I'm going to say it is, patience, right? You're going to have patience in doing this, in this whole never quit thing, right? You're going to have to know that it takes a while. Like, it's a process. You got to trust this whole process. Like, it's doing what it's doing for a reason. Trust this process. One of the most famous quotes I ever heard. It's awesome. And it's so simple. The guy said, to be, at age 21, that's when we can drink. That's when we can do a lot of different things, whatever. Right. Well, it takes 21 years to become 21. Think about it. It takes 21 years to become 21. Yeah. So what I'm saying is there's a process to the whole thing. It takes a while. Okay. Like, it doesn't always happen quick. There's a process to life. Like, it takes a certain amount of time to get to certain places sometimes. And just if you're 30, 40 years old, and you're like, dang, I've been trying for a year and I haven't accomplished my goal. Well, what were you doing for the last 29 years? You weren't trying to accomplish this. So guess what? Eat it. Like, you're going to freaking have to grind, and it's going to take a while, because the last 29 years you were messing around, and now you want to accomplish your goal. I'm not saying your goal is impossible, but just know that you just spent 29 years screwing off. So guess what? Get ready to spend quite a bit of time fixing that so that you can get to your goal. So just never quit. At the end of it, never quit, and never let anyone's opinion of you become your reality. That's from Les Brown.
Perfect. What's the best way for people listening to connect with you?
Social media. Go on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Reach out to me, follow me, like every single post, share everything that you can share, comment on everything, be funny, because I like funny people. DM me. I respond to every single message. Even LinkedIn, I respond to every single message, as long as it's nothing crazy. Like, if it's just like, being stupid, then it's hard for me to respond. But
Yeah.
as long as you're asking a legit question or trying to get a real answer from me about something, I respond to everybody. I check my messages every single day. Everyone knows I'm very responsive. So reach out to me on there. Just look me up. Jesse Iwuji. That's Jesse. Last name is Iwuji. Look me up. That's the same name on all my platforms. I do not have crazy weird names on all my different platforms. I just keep it simple.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, hey, Jesse, I appreciate you taking the time to share your story, share your advice, share your experiences. But I got to leave you with this now. Have fun and ride safe.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this episode of the sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. Make sure you subscribe. That way you don't miss any of our upcoming guests. And follow us on social media, specifically our Facebook page. That is where we do our live shows. Most recently, we had Josh Martelli on the show, and that was a lot of fun. But I need to share one other quick thing with you. We hit a big milestone basically today. Right when I was getting ready to release the show, we hit 40,000 downloads. So that's a pretty big deal for us. Set a record this month for our own personal downloads too. And actually, the month's not over with yet. So pretty exciting stuff. I appreciate all your support in helping make that happen. All right. Special thanks goes out to our sponsors, AMSOIL, Neverlift Racing, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. I also want to shout out our other partners, GSP, XTV, MBRP, HMK USA, and Sudboy Traction. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.